Assalamu alaikum. Kifa holukum. Be koya. Alhamdulillah. Sometimes, especially in difficult situations, we are often tempted to be impatient and do forbidden things. However, being patient with the situation we are experiencing is a noble character and deed. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala loves patient people, as with our story this time. What's the story? Let's find out together. Bismillah. Once upon a time, in Damascus, Syria, there was a grand mosque named Masjid Jami at-Tawbah. A mosque filled with blessings. Inside, there was tranquility and beauty. The place was named at-Tawbah because previously it was a place of entertainment where many sins were committed. Then in the 7th century Hijri, a king bought the place, demolished the building and replaced it by building a mosque on its land. For the past 70 years, there's been a knowledgeable and practicing scholar Marabi in that mosque named Sheikh Salim al-Masif. A teacher and a community leader, he was the person people turned to for questions about various matters. Both religious and worldly, he lived a very simple life, setting an example in simplicity. In his simplicity, even poverty, he refrained from asking for anything, preserving the nobility of his soul and serving the interests of others. He had many students. One of them was a poor young man, just like his teacher. The young man lived in a room in the mosque. One day, the young man was extremely hungry. He hadn't eaten for 2 days. His provisions were gone, and he had no food or money to buy any. The next day, on the 3rd day, he felt that he would die of hunger. Then he thought about what he would do. According to him, he had now reached a forced condition that allowed him to eat carrion or steal just to be able to survive. That was his opinion in such a situation. The at-Tawbah Mosque, where he lived, was located in an old residential area. The houses there were crowded together, their roofs connected to the roofs of several houses next to them. This made it possible for people to move from the first house to the last house by walking on the roofs of the houses. Therefore, he decided to climb onto the roof of the mosque. He walked across the rooftops of the people's houses, searching for a house with food. He started from the house next to the mosque, and from there he moved to the next house. When he reached the roof of one house, he saw women, so he turned his gaze away and moved away from that house. Then he looked at the house next to it. It was quiet, and he smelled food cooking from that house. His hunger grew, as if the smell of the food was a magnet that attracted him. Most houses at that time were built only 1 story high, so he immediately jumped from the roof into the porch. In a flash, he was inside the house and quickly went to the kitchen and lifted the lid of the pot there. He saw a large eggplant that had been cooked. Then he took one. Because of his hunger, he no longer felt the heat. he bit the eggplant in his hand, and as he was about to eat it, he remembered that he was a seeker of knowledge, and his consciousness and faith arose. Immediately he said, "A'udzu billah, I seek refuge in Allah. I am a seeker of knowledge and live in a mosque. Is it right for me to enter people's houses and steal things inside?" He felt that this was a big mistake. Then he regretted it and asked Allah for forgiveness. Then returned the eggplant in his hand. Finally, he immediately returned to the mosque where he was seeking knowledge. Then he went inside and sat listening to the sheikh who was teaching at that time. Because he was too hungry, he could hardly understand what he heard. When the gathering ended and the people had left, a woman covered in a hijab approached the sheikh. In those days, all women wore concealing clothing and didn't show their faces in public. The woman then spoke softly to the sheikh, so the young man couldn't hear what they were saying. Then, suddenly the sheikh looked around. He saw no one except the young man. So he called him and asked, "Are you married?" He replied, "No." The sheikh asked again, "Do you want to get married?" The young man was silent. The sheikh repeated his question. Finally, the young man spoke up. "Yes, O sheikh, by Allah. I don't have money to buy bread. How will I get married?" The sheikh replied, "This woman has come to tell us that her husband has died, and she is a stranger in this city. Here, and even in this world, she has no one except an old and poor uncle," said the sheikh, pointing to a man sitting in the corner. The sheikh continued, "And this woman has inherited her husband's house and his livelihood. Now, she wants a man who will marry her, so that she will not be alone and might be harassed. Are you willing to marry her?" The young man replied, "Yes." Then the sheikh asked the woman, "Are you willing to accept him as your husband?" She replied, "Yes." The sheikh then called the woman's uncle and brought to witnesses, then performed the marriage contracts and paid the dowry for his student. Then the sheikh said, "Hold your wife's hand." The man held his wife's hand, and she led him to our house. After they entered the house, the wife uncovered her face. The young man saw that she was a young and beautiful woman. Apparently, the young man realized that this was the house he had entered earlier. The wife asked, "Do you want to eat?" "Yes," he replied. Then she opened the lid of the pot in the kitchen. Seeing the eggplant inside, she said, "Strange, who entered the house and took a bite out of this eggplant?" Then the young man cried and told his story. His wife commented, "This is the fruit of your trustworthiness. You protected your honor and left the forbidden eggplant. So Allah gave you this whole house, including its owner, in a lawful way. Whoever leaves something sincerely for Allah, Allah will replace it with something better than it. Allah says in the Quran, O you who have believed, seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, Allah is with the patient. Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 153. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam once said, whoever strives to protect himself, Allah will protect him. Whoever strives to be content, Allah will make him sufficient. Whoever strives to be patient, Allah will make him patient. And no one is given anything better than patience. Narrated by Bukhari. That's the end of our story for now. Hopefully, we can take many lessons and wisdom from it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow and bless us to remain among the followers of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam until the afterlife. Ameen. Wallahu Orklam Bisho Wab. Wassalamu alaikum.